I want to talk about the kind of tired that just makes no sense. You've slept 8 hours, you eat really well, you're taking all the supplements, you did your blood work, and your doctor told you everything just looks great. And yet, somewhere around 3 in the afternoon, or honestly, just sometimes the moment you wake up in the morning, you feel like you're just running on fumes. Now, if that's you, I want to offer you something that took me far too long to understand. It's not another supplement, it's not just sleep more, it's a completely different way of seeing what's actually happening inside your body. Now here's the short version, and I'll spend the rest of the video unpacking it. Most people who feel exhausted, they're not suffering from a lack of energy, they're suffering from a particular kind of borrowed energy that the body has to pay back with interest. And once you can see the difference, you can finally do something about it. I'm Harry Massey. I run a company called Energy for Life, and I've spent the last 25 years studying what energy actually is in the human body. Not in the metaphorical sense, in the physics sense. And the reason I care about this is because I lost my own energy completely for 7 whole years. I was bedridden in my 20s after a couple of climbing accidents, and I tried every supplement, every diet, every therapy you could think of. And unfortunately, none of it worked until I stopped asking what's wrong with me and started asking something really different. Where does energy actually come from? That question changed everything. And one of the first things it taught me is that there are 2 completely different kinds of energy that the body can use, and we mistake one for the other constantly. The first kind is what I call built energy. That's real energy, the kind your cells produce when you've slept well, you're eating a great diet, you've got nice, slow, deep breaths during the day, you're moving your body, and your nervous system has had a chance to settle. It's quiet. It's steady. You can hold it for hours without a crash. The second kind, that's borrowed energy. Borrowed energy is what happens when your body is actually depleted, but life keeps demanding output anyway. So the body does what any smart system would do. It borrows in any way it can. It dips into your stress response. It floods the system with cortisol and adrenaline. And it feels for a few hours like you have energy, but you really don't. Instead, you've got activation, and they look identical from the outside, but on the inside, they're completely different. So when you drink caffeine, it's borrowing. When you eat sugar, you're borrowing again. Nicotine is depleting and borrowing. And pushing through exhaustion because there's a deadline, that's borrowing again. The hit you get from chocolate at 4 p.m, you're depleting yourself. And none of these things are evil. Even I eat chocolate, so I'm not here to lecture anyone. But the problem is that we've stopped noticing which kind of energy we're running on. And the body eventually presents the bill. So I'll tell you a story of what happened a couple of years ago. We were running this conference called Zenergy. It was the first live performance of GIST, our personal practice for managing your own energy and life, plus a series of product releases. Now, to break even, we needed to sell about 1,000 seats in this huge hotel in Denver. And unfortunately, we didn't make it. Now, what I want to focus on is not the financial side. It's what I did to my body in the run-up to that event. I was writing all the lectures, I was project managing the tech, getting the music written, rehearsing a gazillion details that I probably shouldn't have been the one solving. Now, I don't normally do this, but I started using chocolate and kombucha to keep going. Quick lifts, and by the time the event happened, I was just completely running on fumes. I didn't feel exhausted at the time, I felt activated, and there's a difference. However, a week after the conference, I packed up my house and moved to Austin. The moment I arrived, my body just finally gave up and just let go of everything I'd been holding together for months. And so I crashed hard. I ended up with mold poisoning on top of it, and it took moving back to Utah and rebuilding the basics, my movement, my sleep schedule, my routines, for the system to come back online. And here's the lesson I want you to take from that, because it's not the obvious one. The obvious lesson is rest more. However, the real lesson is that I'd been borrowing energy for weeks without noticing, and the bill arrived in a different city, in a different season, and the cost was much, much bigger than the borrowing felt like it would be. And that's just how this works. The body doesn't send you the invoice in real time, it sends it later, and unfortunately, with interest. I want to give you a name for what I was doing, because once you have the name, you can spot it in your own life. I call it the compensation loop, and it goes like this. You wake up tired, there's pressure on the day, work, family, an event, a deadline, so you compensate, you push, you have that chocolate, take the sugar, drink more coffee, and maybe a glass of wine in the evening to come down from all of that activity. You sleep less well because of the alcohol, the sugar, and the cortisol that's still circulating. So you wake up even more tired the next day. But the pressure is still there, so you compensate harder. And every loop, you end up further and further behind. And this isn't a willpower problem. It's actually the opposite. It's an energy accounting problem. You're spending energy you haven't actually earned. And so the interest is brutal. So how do you get out of it? 3 things, but the first one is by far the most important. The next time you feel a wave of energy, ask yourself a question. Did this come from rest, or did it come from pressure? Did you just sleep well? Were you eating well? Have you been breathing at a natural rate all day? Have you been moving your body? Or did you just have caffeine, sugar, or a stressful day? Now you will be amazed how often the answer is actually the second one, and just naming it changes things, because now you know whether your tank is actually full or whether you've been running on fumes, plus all of that interest. 2, protect your recovery before you spend it. Now once you can tell the difference, the next move is structural. On a day when you can see that you're running on borrowed energy, the answer is not to do more, the answer is to lower the load. Eat something steady, protein, fat, slow carbs, hydrate, reduce stimulation if you can, and critically, set an exit time. Now if you've got a social event or a long work day, decide before you go what time or what body signal means that you're going to leave, because protecting tomorrow is a valid form of success today. 3, you want to give the system what it actually needs to recharge. And this is where physics comes in. Your cells, they're literally electrical. They run on a real measurable charge. But they don't only get that charge from food. They get it from oxygen, sunlight, contact with the earth, movement, and also from sleep. Most of us are deficient in nearly all of those sources of energy. However, what you can do is you can wake up, have 20 minutes outside, get some of the morning sun, even better, walk barefoot on the grass, take 3 deep, long breaths every single hour, or do some breath work when you wake up. And also every day you want some easy aerobic movement, a long walk, a slow swim, time outdoors, and of course going to bed at the same time every single night. Now none of these will make a viral TikTok, but they're far closer to free electrons for your battery than any supplement on a shelf, and they actually cost nothing. And if you have access to it, swimming in the sea, time on a light bed, or any form of structured outdoor movement does the same job at a much higher dose. Now here's where this gets practical and where I want to introduce something that we've invented. Most people genuinely cannot tell day to day whether their energy is built or whether it's borrowed. And the body's good at hiding it, and modern life makes it almost impossible to feel. That's why we built GEM. Now the name stands for Guided energy management. And that's exactly what it does. The Gem wearable and app does something that most other wearables don't. It doesn't just count your steps or measure your heart rate. It reads your body's energy state every 15 minutes and classifies it into one of these three modes. Fired up, your sympathetic nervous system is activated. Now this is borrowed energy territory. Flow, your nervous system is balanced. This is built energy territory, where you actually want to live. Or recovering, your body is restoring itself, healthy at night, a warning sign during the day. Now across a 24-hour window, those three states paint a picture of your day that you've probably never seen before, and you can finally watch yourself slip into compensation in real time before that crash arrives. And the Gem doesn't just track it. When it sees you slipping, it can deliver a corrective signal back to your wrist to support your nervous system, getting it back into flow. That's the guided part of guided energy management. We don't just measure, we measure and then act. Inside the app, all of this rolls up into what we call your vitality score, which is a single number that represents your real energy. Now the short version of what the vitality score is its information times voltage divided by resistance, which is another way of saying how your energy is leaking out of your body. Now we call it the vitality score because that's what Energy for Life is all about. Now the most important part that the Gem does is give you awareness. So just try the question for a week. Is your energy built or have you borrowed your energy? And then watch how often you catch yourself. But if you want the full picture, your energy, your stress, your recovery, your trajectory across weeks, that's what Gem is for. Now, you can have a look at the Gem in the link below, but the bigger point I want to leave you with is this. The reason you're tired is not because you need to try harder. It's actually much simpler than that. It's because you've been spending energy that you haven't built. As soon as you stop borrowing energy, the body starts to rebuild energy. And it's actually really, really good at it. It's been waiting for you to stop running it into the ground. And that's the work. Now in the next video, I'm going to go a layer deeper into the actual equation that runs the Gem app underneath all of this, and why your body's vitality turns out to be a number that you can compute, watch move, and actually take action on. I'll see you there.